Barack Obama and Bahrain, folks. Barack Obama and the Bahrainian people. Keeping going here. The article says President of Bahrain Center of Human Rights Nabil Rajab says the U.S. media have been ordered not to cover news on the government's brutal crackdown on Bahraini people. I haven't seen too much. Have you guys? Reports from the center's colleagues in the United States say in the U.S. some news agencies and TV stations were asked not to report on Bahrain and not to embarrass President Barack Obama's administration, Rajab told Press TV. Afro Prepper thinks that he's doing a great job of embarrassing himself on his own, especially when he gets locked out of his own house. He went on to say that the U.S. and the Western governments have chosen to keep silent over ongoing atrocities in Bahrain due to their support for the country's authoritarian regime. According to unconfirmed reports, over 420 people have been arrested during ongoing protests in the kingdom, Rajab pointed out. The Bahraini protesters continue to demand the oust of the 200-year-old plus monarchy as well as constitutional reforms. At least 25 people have been killed and about 1,000 others injured during the government-sanctioned crackdowns on peaceful demonstrators. Joined recently by police units and troops from Saudi and the United Arab Emirates, the Bahraini government forces have launched a deadly crackdown on the popular revolution that began to sweep the Persian Gulf island on February 14th, folks. There's a comment on this article from a Saeed Mohammed, which says, he is right. Western leaders and media are keeping shut about these killings and humanitarian crisis created by a totalitarian dictatorship. This silence order is an act of desperation to hide the true intentions of the USA/EU and corporate intervention in ME/NA. But it's too late. And it's not easy in the age of communication either. Most people in EU and USA know what's going on. USA, EU, and company is already defeated in ME/NA. They have lost in Bahrain already, but they can't admit it yet. That means that we have a voice, people, and let your voice be heard. Moving on. Mr. Commander-in-Chief Barack Obama says that losing $84 billion is a big success. Barack Obama has some explaining to do about taxpayer profitable, quote, investment in General Motors. It turns out the president is imagining things. That he is. Though Democrats tout the auto bailout as a success, recent reports illustrate the taxpayer cost of the GM auto bailout was substantially larger than the Obama administration and a congressional oversight report has owned up to. They lied to you, folks. Quote, American taxpayers are now positioned to recover more than my administration invested in GM, President Obama said, according to a piece in USA Today last November. Stephen Ratner, former head of the Treasury Auto Task Force, agreed, telling CNN in November recent progress at GM gives reason for optimism that it may be possible for taxpayers to get every penny back. Not so much. In fact, Investors Business Daily reported that even the White House's director of the National Economic Council remarked that the Treasury Department had a good chance in, quote, recovering most, if not all, of its investment in GM. However, on March 16th, last month, Congressional Oversight Report tells a different story. It estimates taxpayers will be out $25 billion. Additionally, the report points out that full repayment will not be possible unless the government is able to sell its remaining shares at a far higher price. And quite frankly, you can't sell them at a far higher price when you devalue the currency because nobody wants to pay exorbitant amounts. That's only the beginning. Both the White House and the Congressional Oversight Report omit the fact that during the bankruptcy of General Motors got a $45 billion tax break. So we give these clowns $84 billion or something like that, and then we give them a $45 billion tax break. You do the math, folks. Courtesy of the American people. No wonder we buy Kias now, huh? Terrible. Bunch of crooks, robbers, and clowns. Please take your time to go to www.gm.com/investors/sales-production and look at the caption underneath this photo. It really will give you insight on who they believe the best and the brightest are. Last but not least in today's cast, we're going to cover America is the third world now. Right now. America is the third world for these 3 reasons. Number 1, people simply not eating enough and cannot afford to eat nutritiously. Not to mention the induction of GMO foods into the food supply. America's the third world because once you are unable to eat nutritiously and feed your mind, body, and spirit, you are considered to be nullified or numb to issues, and you will simply vote for anybody that promises something different, and which leads into my second point, and that is education. We have janitors in this country now who have master's degrees, who have bachelor's degrees. That is a sign of the third world. That is half the reason quite a few people from around the world come to America with their degrees, because they are seeking opportunity. But that opportunity is being subverted by USA LLC, the corporate agenda in America to subjugate its people. So we are the third world now. Last but not least, homelessness and the new poverty. Homelessness. There are tons of stats on the homeless here in this country at this point. Check out the stats in California as well as Florida and your local state on the rise in homelessness. And not to mention the new poverty. When did it become fashionable or a less taboo thing to go shop at Savers and Goodwills and thrift stores? Now it's becoming the norm. My wife last week was at Savers to get some bug out clothes, and the line was wrapped around the building, folks. Wrapped around the building like it was a major event. Not to mention that they spoke with the actual owner of that store or a manager of that store, and Savers is being purchased by a company out of Chicago in which they were going to eliminate 99-cent Mondays. So the point is this, folks, is that once you become used to your standard of living dropping, then you are already in the third world because you believe everything. So my point is, check out any resource that you can find and begin to protect your family, yourself. Also, prepare spiritually, prepare mentally, prepare physically for the rocky road that is upcoming. Thank you for tuning in. This is Telling It Like It Is News, April 3rd, 2011. There are no jokes going around about the things that are happening today, folks. So prepare yourself for the worst. And remember, if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. Afro Prepper, and I'll catch you on the flip side, folks.